Priti Patel, the Home Secretary. And Priti Patel, thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to breakfast. I know you've been busy this morning talking about the immigration revolution, as it's being called, on the front page of the Daily Mail. A lot of people asking me this question this morning because I've been asking them what they would like to ask you. Is this going to be the first time, really, that we've seen a proper immigration policy being brought in by a Tory government which will actually work and will not, in fact, not do what it says on the tin?
Well, this will now be, for the first time in decades, the British government will be in control of its own immigration policy and its own immigration system. That is a really big deal. We've not had this in decades because of our membership of the European Union. So we are creating our own single global immigration system that basically will treat EU and non-EU migrant citizens equally. By ending free movement, we are moving away from all those EU laws, systems and regulations that have determined our approach to immigration, and therefore introducing a points-based system which will do what it says on the tin. It's going to prioritise the skills that our economy and our country needs, bringing in the brightest and the best from around the world to support the needs of the UK economy. And importantly, this system will mark the end of the over-reliance on low-skilled workers, and we will bring overall migration numbers down.
Will you be putting pressure on British companies, though, who have used in the past low-skilled workers, particularly from the EU, because you're now more or less saying to them, you're going to have to employ local people, British people, but you're going to have to pay them more money?
Well, that is part of the government's agenda, absolutely, in terms of levelling up, in terms of skills, but also our economy across the United Kingdom. The focus has been for far too long on London and the South East and on some of our great cities. And of course, there are many parts of the country, I've visited so many in the last few years, that have been left behind. We need businesses to invest in people and in their skills and to join our mission to level up on skills and economic growth so that we can deliver a high skill, high wage and highly productive economy. And that means effectively businesses investing in people that are economically inactive right now to get them basically into employment around the whole of the country and stop being so reliant on low cost, low skilled workers from the EU.
One of the big problems that people talk to me about a lot is the illegal immigrants who have come to this country and who continue to remain here and continue to live here for one reason or another. Up to now, nobody's really been able to say how many people are here illegally. Do you have a number now? Do you know how many people are here as illegal immigrants?
Well, this is the challenge. So under our new system, this will be a phased system, by the way. So in due course, we will be able to use data and biometrics to count people in and count people out. That is something that we have not been able to do at all. And of course, this goes back to free movement. It comes back to, no controls effectively. And this is the point that we're trying to emphasise right now. We want control of our borders. There are many things that we're going to be doing in terms of, making our borders much more secure. We're going to be introducing new criminal checks and new criminal thresholds. These are really important measures, to protect the British public, but to ensure that we are getting into our country, allowing into our brilliant country the right people for the right reasons.
And what will you be able to do to stop people coming in on these sort of, dinghies, effectively, from France? People who quite often originate in places like Libya and Iran and Iraq, perhaps, but who come here knowing that if they do manage to get anywhere near Dover, they'll be picked up, they'll be brought here, and they'll be given somewhere to live.
So that is a very separate issue to the points-based system, and that is effectively what we're speaking about, illegal migration.
Yeah.
We do have a great deal of work, in fact, a lot of work taking place on this. We're now working in conjunction not just with the French authorities, but with the Belgian authorities and other European countries, because this is upstream migration. You've just said they're coming from Libya, they're coming from outside of Europe, and there's a lot of facilitation through criminal gangs and organised crime gangs that's basically taking place. So we've got huge policing operations, and we're having to absolutely now resort to policing operations, a lot more in terms of organised gang and NCA activity to go into the local areas to break up gangs. We've got intercepts taking place. We've got activities with drones. But the problem is, from our perspective, once people are are in the water, they're prepared to chance it.
Yeah.
And these people are being trafficked, they're being abused. And, that is what we're trying to break up. We're trying to break up the networks and the gangs from even get into people and then put them in the water. Because you're right, once they come here, they can effectively, they don't always, but they can effectively end up in our asylum system seeking to claim asylum. And then, of course, they're in that whole process where, for a range of reasons, immigration, bail, asylum claims, they could end up legitimately claiming asylum. And we want to do much more. We are doing much more. We've got a much bigger approach now in terms of cracking down on illegal migration.
Okay. And the other big issue that people talk about, of course, a lot, and we are now looking at a sort of a time-sensitive scenario where I believe there's likely to be some prisoners possibly released by the end of this month who have been previously locked up for extremist activity. We've also got a story this morning in the Times about Winchester Jail, where an inmate has been radicalised. He's been more or less forced into some kind of Sharia court scenario. He's attacked some prison officers. It's a big problem, the Islamic extremists in prisons in this country and the early release of them.
Well, first of all, you'll be aware last week we brought through the House of Commons, it's already passed through the House of Commons stages, emergency legislation, so that no terrorist offender can automatically be released from prison, early in their sentence. And the laws, the changes that we will bring in basically will apply to individuals in prison that are terrorist offenders. So they have to go through a probation, a proper parole panel and have scrutiny. But the fact of the matter is these individuals are in prison for a reason. They are a danger and they are a threat to society and to the public. And we do need to keep them in prison. We cannot have them automatically released. And in terms of Winchester Prison, obviously there'll be an investigation and an inquiry that will take place. It is appalling to see, yet another prison officer, an individual on the front line being attacked and being put in such risk. I mean, these individuals do very difficult jobs. And of course, we're providing a lot of work and support to give support and protection to prison officers. But at the end of the day, these individuals they're dangerous. They've got a lot of dangerous intent. And so our job is to absolutely keep the public safe and keep them in prison.
Indeed. I don't know if you were up late last night because, of course, you were probably up very early this morning talking to a lot of people. I don't know if you saw the Brits, but Dave, who won a couple of awards, one of the stars of stage and screen in the music business, declared Boris Johnson to be a racist. What's your view of that?
So you will not be surprised. I did not watch the Brits last night. I chose to go to bed early because I had to get up pretty early. Look, I appreciate Dave is well known. He's a rapper, he's a popular artist, but his comments about Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, are totally, totally inaccurate. I've known our Prime Minister for a long time. I've worked with him for a long time, and he absolutely is not a racist.
I agree with that entirely. Priti Patel, thank you very much indeed.